So, one very important factor of personal growth, which we don't usually think about, is the actual state of our consciousness. That sounds pretty abstract. It is. I'm talking about almost in a frequency sense. So, for example, many people are familiar with the idea that we have beta frequencies in our brain, which I believe are from 8 to 14 hertz. And then there are alpha frequencies, which are a little bit slower. And then I believe it's theta is the slower one under that. And then delta, the deepest. But even beyond the actual technical numbers, how are our minds functioning? And when I say mind, our thoughts are a reflection of our physical state. They're a reflection of our energetic body, which is the energy flowing or not flowing? And it's not simply that we can do mechanical exercises such as yoga exercises. When we have things like hatred or anger that we're holding, all the things they talk about in Buddhism, that actually blocks our energetic flows. And on a certain level, everyone's heard the phrase, it's bringing us down. Well, it really is. And so at a certain point, when we're looking to achieve whatever our desired result is, whether it's health or personal growth or whatever, a lot of that is a result of the frequency we're actually resonating at. And so to actually change our state of consciousness, one might almost think of the idea of water being either ice, water, or steam. And of course, there are basic practices that put us into, for lack of a better word, a higher state of consciousness. So, for example, meditation. I mean, in a lot of ways, people who do drugs are changing their frequencies and seeking to experience something different on that level. But the problem with drugs is that very often there's an equal and opposite reaction. And it's not a lasting thing. It's not a real transformation of who we are fundamentally. It's just a temporary experience. I'm not saying anything against it. I'm not saying anything for it. I'm just saying that if what we really want to experience is a greater state of wellness and consciousness, then we have to transform ourselves on a fundamental level. And in the short term, there are practices we can do if, for example, our mind is going off on whatever the problem of the moment is, or even if we're experiencing some sort of pain or discomfort. Now, I'm not saying anything about what people should do as far as seeking medical help or taking an herb or anything like that, but I am saying that in a lot of the literature, changing your state of consciousness will open you up to healing in a way that's not accessible when you're just in your everyday mind. And so I don't have a very neat way of saying this, but whenever you're reading something or thinking about something or feeling something, you also have to observe yourself and see, what frequency am I at the moment? What frequency am I at? And I want to say it's not simply mechanical. It's not simply like you measure yourself. So, for example, a musician, an A string is usually tuned to A440 or A432 in the esoteric lore. But it's not so simple. So that's a very long and rambling way of saying the frequency, who we are at the moment. And of course, it's not like we're always at a certain level. People go up and down and back and forth. But when you have long-term raised your vibration, to use those sorts of terms, even though you might have good days and bad days, to put it that way, still when you've raised your vibration, sometimes your bad days are still better than what your good days were at much lower rates of vibration. So that's a very, okay, I'm just going to leave it at that.